Hey there! It's great to have you back with us at English ITV. We've got something really awesome in store for you today, the top 9 phrasal verbs and collocations you need to know. So hang tight and make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our amazing content. The meaning of to point out is to direct someone's attention to someone or something, usually by using one's finger or a gesture. It can also mean to mention or emphasize something that one thinks is important or relevant. For example, he pointed out his girlfriend in the crowd. He showed me where his girlfriend was by pointing at her. She pointed out the spelling errors in my essay. She told me about the mistakes I made in my writing.
I'd like to point out that you have only a few minutes left. I'd like to point out that you have only a few minutes left.
I might point out you're lying under my bench. I might point out you're lying under my bench.
Lady up the road a ways pointed out, my wheel is falling off.
Ow.
Lady up the road a ways pointed out, my wheel is falling off.
Ow.
The meaning of to be up as an idiom used with the word time as the subject is to have used up all the available or allotted time for something, or to have no more time left. For example, we're up time, we have to stop now, or your time is up, please hand in your papers. This is a common and idiomatic usage of the phrase, and it is often used in situations where there is a deadline or a limit on time.
Your time is up. Your time is up.
When that cigarette burns out, your time is up. When that cigarette burns out, your time is up.
I guess our hour's up. I guess our hour's up.
The meaning of to be over depends on the context, but generally it has one of the following senses. To be finished or completed. For example, the movie is over or the exam is over. To be no longer in a relationship with someone. For example, they are over or it's over between us.
Don't make it mine. This meeting is over. Don't make it mine. This meeting is over.
The battle for Helm's Deep is over. The battle for Helm's Deep is over.
Look, it's over between us. We're getting a divorce. Look, it's over between us. We're getting a divorce.
The meaning of on time is to be punctual or to do something at the expected or agreed time. For example, he arrived on time for the meeting or she finished her homework on time. The phrase on time is an adverbial phrase, which is a group of words that modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. Adverbial phrases can express how, when, where, why, or how much something happens.
I want to congratulate you for being on time. I want to congratulate you for being on time.
Just get him here. We're low on time. Just get him here. We're low on time.
Pays the rent on time. Pays the rent on time.
The phrase on time can also be contrasted with the phrase in time, which has a slightly different meaning. The phrase in time means to do something before a deadline or a critical moment, or to have enough time to do something. For example, he got to the airport in time for his flight, or she was in time to save him from the fire.
And it must be there in time for Christmas dinner. And it must be there in time for Christmas dinner.
But we will be back in time for dinner, right? But we will be back in time for dinner, right?
You think you can get there in time? You think you can get there in time?
The meaning of had better is to give advice or a warning to someone about what they should or should not do in a certain situation. It is a modal verb phrase, which is followed by the base form of another verb, without to. For example, you had better study hard for the exam, or you had better not lie to me. The phrase had better expresses a strong or urgent recommendation or obligation, and it often implies a negative consequence or a threat if the advice is not followed. For example, you had better hurry up, or you'll miss the bus, or you had better pay me back, or else. The phrase had better is usually contracted to d better in spoken and informal English. For example, I'd better go now, or she'd better be careful. The phrase had better is different from the phrase would rather, which expresses a preference or a wish. For example, I would rather stay home than go out, or she would rather have tea than coffee.
The stone had better be up there. The stone had better be up there.
You had better get out of this room and back downstairs right away. You had better get out of this room and back downstairs right away.
Okay. Somebody in this office had better start talking. Okay. Somebody in this office had better start talking.
I would rather take a poison pill than take another man. I would rather take a poison pill than take another man.
Would you rather have your children piled in a closet or hanging in someone's living room? Would you rather have your children piled in a closet or hanging in someone's living room?
I think I'd rather stay here. I think I'd rather stay here.
The meaning of to call it a day is to stop working or doing something, usually because one is tired, satisfied, or has reached a limit. It is an idiomatic expression that implies that one has done enough for the day and is ready to rest or do something else. For example, I've been working on this project for hours, I think it's time to call it a day. I've been working hard and I need a break. She called it a day after winning 3 matches in a row. She was happy with her performance and decided to stop. He called it a day when he ran out of paint. He could not continue his work and had to stop. The phrase to call it a day is a metaphor that compares one's work or activity to a day, which has a beginning and an end. The phrase suggests that one has reached the end of the day and is ready to move on to the next one. The origin of the phrase is not clear, but it may have been influenced by the practice of ringing a bell or blowing a whistle to signal the end of a workday or a shift.
Let's not. Let's call it a day. Let's not. Let's call it a day.
And we'll call it a day. And we'll call it a day.
Just be a nice guy. Call it a day. Just be a nice guy. Call it a day.
The meaning of to figure out is to understand, solve, or explain something by using one's logic, reasoning, or intuition. It is a phrasal verb that consists of 2 words, the verb figure and the adverb out. For example, I finally figured out the answer to the puzzle. I solved the puzzle by using my logic. She figured out that he was lying to her. She understood that he was lying by using her intuition. He figured out how to fix the computer. He explained how to fix the computer by using his reasoning. The phrase to figure out can also be used to decide or determine something, usually after some thought or calculation. For example, I need to figure out my budget for this month. I need to decide how much money I can spend by doing some calculation. She figured out what she wanted to do with her life. She determined what her goals and passions were by doing some thought. He figured out where to go for vacation. He decided where to travel by doing some research. The phrase to figure out is different from the phrase to find out, which means to discover or learn something, usually by getting information from someone or something else.
The other rules, you'll figure out as you go along. The other rules, you'll figure out as you go along.
No, but it took me a while to figure out why I felt, so different. No, but it took me a while to figure out why I felt, so different.
Well, some of you may have figured out we're not home yet. Well, some of you may have figured out we're not home yet.
The meaning of to think of depends on the context, but generally it has one of the following senses. To have an idea, opinion, or impression of someone or something. For example, what do you think of this book, or I think of him as a friend. To remember or recall someone or something. For example, I always think of you when I hear this song, or she thought of her childhood. To imagine or consider doing something or what would happen if something happened. For example, have you ever thought of becoming a teacher, or what do you think of moving to another country? To create or invent something in one's mind. For example, He thought of a clever solution to the problem, or she thought of a funny joke. To have a feeling or emotion towards someone or something. For example, I think of you with love, or he thought of her with anger. The phrase to think of is a phrasal verb, which is a verb that consists of two or more words and has a different meaning from the individual words.
All I do anymore is think of ways to break my parole. All I do anymore is think of ways to break my parole.
You have to think of it in his situation. You have to think of it in his situation.
There are days now when I manage not to think of you. There are days now when I manage not to think of you.